Roman amphitheaters, cathedrals, museums, islands, waterfalls, beaches, wine, great food, and Game of Thrones. What do these all have in common? These are all actually located in the small and sometimes overlooked country of Croatia. My grandmother's parents immigrated to the U.S. from Croatia, so makes me one-fourth Croatian. It's always interesting to learn about one's heritage and ancestors, but this is a very interesting place for anyone to learn about because it's such a beautiful country that's growing as a tourist attraction. So Bosnia is a Eastern European country. It's a real long coastline. It's bordered by Bosnia, Serbia, Hungary, Slovenia, basically straight east of Italy on the Adriatic Sea. It actually has over 1,000 islands. Croatia has a pretty interesting history, according to Clayton Maxwell from the Travel Channel. From about 11 BC to the 5th century AD, the Romans controlled this region under the name Dalmatia, which sounds like Dalmatian and is actually where that breed of dog originated. While the Romans controlled the area. They built roads and a lot of other advances, as well as a amphitheater in Pula that's still there today, and it looks very similar, just a smaller version of the Colosseum in Rome. The rest of the history of Croatia is kind of controversial. There's some skepticism and conflicting ideas of who and when exactly came into the area, but basically the Croats and Slavic tribes were migrating around the area and in about the 7th century settled here. After the fall of Rome, the Western European influence came in, and there's a big push for Christianity, and this can really be seen in Croatia because to this day, over 90% of Croats are Catholic. About that a little later in the 9th century, the first king of Croatia actually made the area really powerful. It was one of the strongest regions in the Balkans. Being in the Balkans, it also does have a very Mediterranean and nice climate. The history of Croatia has been littered with a lot of wars, a lot of strife in the area. For a while, Croatia merged with Hungary, fought the Turks and the Ottoman Empire, and just off and on, just not a lot of fun in that area. Early 1900s is when my ancestors immigrated here. Following the end of World War I, the Serbs, Croats, Slovenes, that whole area joined together to form the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, which was pretty much a failure. There was just even more civil wars, terrorist groups up until the 1990s, and we probably all remember the Bosnian War, which didn't just include Bosnia. The Bosnian Croats and a lot of Serbians and even Albania and that whole area was just fighting amongst themselves, and there's genocide, and it was just really terrible. Living in the Midwest, I remember during this time there were a lot of Bosnian refugees into the area. A lot of them would be offended if you just stated they were Bosnian when they might actually be Croatian or Serbian or even Albanian. That war ended in 95, and since then there has been peace and a lot of prosperity in the area. Has a Croatia has a very pretty diverse and rich culture. Geographically, the area is kind of separated into three different regions, and they kind of look at themselves as different cultures, but they're very similar. A lot of herders and farmers, herding sheep and goats, farming grain and vineyards and olives, which my family really loves. Crafts such as loom weaving, doing things with lace, pottery have always been very popular. Of course, with that long coastline, fishing and trade was also a real big deal. As far as entertainment, culturally, there's always been folk dances, carnivals, a lot of other festivals. It's very common to see small groups of people singing, or just singing by themselves or accompanied with instruments. Typically they are usually string instruments like a guitar or mandolin, or the tambura, which is similar to the mandolin. I think it's a three-stringed instrument, pretty small. And in addition to just the culture, there's also a lot of natural beauty and a lot of points of interest. Of course, there is the amphitheater, but there are also, with all the islands, there are numerous beaches. Here is the island of Brack with crystal clear waters and just a massive beach. There's also the Plitvice Lakes National Park that has lots of waterfalls and other beautiful landscape. Um, the area being so beautiful, it was not surprising that the HBO show Game of Thrones decided to use Croatia for a lot of its filming. If you see here, this is the city of Dubrovnik, which is used as King's Landing in the show. And this walled city, actually, these walls are the biggest in the world other than the Great Wall of China. A lot of these sea battles were done in Croatia as well. Here's Lovrijenac Fort, where the Battle of Blackwater Sea was filmed. And then all the iconic gardens and the castles and some of the other beautiful things were done in Tresno Arboretum. And here is a fountain with a statue of Neptune in the Arboretum. So it's not surprising that they chose such a beautiful place to film the show, and they do a lot of tours there. But due to this beauty and the rich heritage and the peace that we now see in the area, Croatia is still a small and sometimes forgotten country, but is increasingly becoming a big tourist attraction for anyone traveling to Europe.